Hello and welcome to another episode. This is an episode that is really dear to my heart. So thanks. Thanks for coming. And thanks for asking. So today what we're going to be talking about is you got it, preparing for the real estate exam. And the question, I want to give a big shout out to Taylor. This is not the first time I've heard this question, but this is the first time I've heard it quite so direct and concise. So the question again, how do I prepare for the real estate exam to get my real estate license? So I want you to also check out on Pretty Home Academy. We just rolled out a video about your first 30 days. Okay. So that was a question that we had answered, but now we're going back a little bit before that. So let's just say that you are taking your class or you're almost done taking your class and you need to the very next step is to take your real estate exam. Well, how do you prepare for it? Well, we're going to have a quick interview with Ryan. She just actually passed her real estate exam, and we're going to ask her some of those questions. And then I'm going to add some of my insights as well. All right, let's do it. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions. And for a couple of reasons, you have achieved something that a lot of people want to achieve right now. And so I've been getting questions on this. So I want to ask you how you did it. All right. So this question came from Taylor. And Taylor asked, she said, what is the best way to prepare for the real estate license exam? So I know you just passed it. What would be some of your best advice on how to prepare for it?
Okay, so after the 40-hour course, what worked for me was so depending on who you go through, I went through Real Estate One Academy. So what they had available was quizzes that you can take that were based on each chapter. They also had exam prep classes that you could take. So I took advantage of all of that to prepare. And then they recommend that you download an app that's on, it's not through them, but it's one like they research and they agree with. And so I downloaded that app and it was really, really helpful. So I prepared probably about 2 months after. They said to like take it right away, which I was going to, but I'm actually thankful that I didn't take it exactly right away because it was more studying that I did need to do. So I took advantage of all of those as well as the MEL exam. So any type of exams that I could take, any type of test that I could take, I took them. I took the book test. I just did as much test taking as I could so that I would pretty much be familiar with the way that the questions are formatted because they're kind of tricky. So getting used to kind of looking for those, those different nuances and words and things like that that can kind of trip you up. And then just with the vocabulary, really trying to understand what topic the word went with. So if there was a word that I wasn't certain, if I got something wrong in the exam, I would look at what tripped me up. And then usually it was a word that I didn't understand. And so looking back in the chapters, was this about title? Was this about, appraisals? Like what category was this in? And it really helped because on the exam, on the actual test, you could eliminate if you knew this word, you might not know the answer, but you know that this word doesn't have anything to do with what they're asking.
Okay.
Those were the things that I did that I think really helped a lot.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to a couple of things that you said. So you said there was an app and you said the mail test. So let's start with the app. What was the app? And tell me a little bit about the app.
Sure, I can show you on my phone.
Okay.
So there is one that they recommended. It's the one, there's another one that's similar, but this one I believe was $8.99. So the one
Okay.
that's for $8.99 and it's orange and white. I'm still hold on really quick. This one. Okay, focus on that. That one right there. This Michigan real estate test prep.
Gotcha.
Really,
Gotcha.
really, really valuable because the way it's full of questions when you go on it. It has some study, you can do it in study mode where you can
Okay.
just prep and then you can test yourself. So if you're,
Wow.
for example, doing the test at test mode and they have it where you can do as many questions as you want. I only did 10 at a time because I'm like, okay, my goal is 70%. So let's see if I can get 7 out of 10, So
Yeah.
that kind of kept me focused. And then if I didn't, they give you the answer. That's what I like too. Not the answer. They give you the answer, but also the reason for the answer. So it's all explained as to why, this is the correct answer. So very, very valuable.
Wow. And then you mentioned something else. You said the mail test. Is
The
that
MEL test is
MEL?
MEL. So that is the test that you can get through the library, I believe that one is. I ended up getting it through one of my instructors, but that one, and again, it's just it. There's two of them, I believe two. There was two that I took, and it's just practice tests. It has questions, and again, does that one have the explanation? Can't remember, but it's really helpful. Even when you sign up with PSI, they give
Mhm.
you practice tests with that. I took that one. That one
Wow.
costs. But I was just like, let me just take as many tests as
Right.
I can. And I
Right.
really think it paid off because I passed it. So I was
It's
very, very happy about that.
it's a hard test to pass. And a lot of times the reason why it's hard is because they'll use a phrase that is true, but they'll put a word in it that is
Yeah,
not does not go with that phrase. So, like you
right.
said, if you know the word, you can eliminate it because that doesn't go with it. So, like they'll say something about fair housing, but then they'll throw something about title in there, and you're like, wait a minute, but you're like, oh yeah, that's right. If you don't really think about it, you go, oh yeah, that's correct, but it's not, for what they were asking. So about that, they were kind of tricky like that. What would you say as far as that goes, like picking the right answer, like the testing portion of it? Was it just like practicing, like getting used to doing the testing part? What got you through the testing part?
I remain as calm as possible. So I didn't look at the clock a lot. I just wanted to, when I, got up that morning, I just tried to just remain calm. I was even running a little bit late, but I'm like, okay, it's okay. I had like I do, for me personally, I do, like different health and wellness things to help calm me down or, so I was all prepared
Is
for
it like
that.
like breathing exercises or
Yeah, so
anything?
I breathe with
I
my
do
my
that. I do
essential
that too. That's
my
great.
essential oils, and I just so I did that prior to leaving, and then so my mental state was calm. I even hey, I just do whatever you have to do. If you got to pray, if you got to just whatever, stay calm. Like don't let it trip you out. Um, I don't worry about anything else because it's a testing center. There's other people. They might be coughing. They might be, shuffling, twitching, getting up, using the restroom, all the things. Just kind of like zone them out. Have your blinders on and just
Okay.
focus.
Okay.
I just took my time. I was just reading the question. I talk to myself when I'm trying to figure something out. So don't feel like that's weird or anything. Talk it out. If it's not there were some, like, I'll be honest, I didn't understand what I had to backtrack. I had to, really like break down each part of the question to see
Mm-hmm.
really what they were trying to ask.
Mm.
So that I could understand the connection between the answers.
Wow. Wow. Well, it sounds like doing that, you really knocked it out of the park. So that's awesome. So I do now that's preparing for the license, that's preparing for the exam.
As far as studying, those definitions are the vocabulary. I think that's when it really, because you have all these big chunks of information,
Mm-hmm.
but if you really can, when you're doing your practice tests
Mm-hmm.
and you're recognizing it's not really maybe the answer that you're getting wrong. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
problem. The problem is you're not understanding what a word usually means or what it goes with. So understanding those,
Mm-hmm.
I think, is key in
I agree.
understanding the question. So if you know what words are tripping you up, look those up, and then find out what do they apply to.
Okay. Now there's another part of the test. And I know you had, I mean, you passed the test, so you had to figure this part out. It's two parts. So another part of it is the math. A lot of people get caught up on it because they're like, I haven't did math in a long time. Um, how was the math and how did you get past that?
So for me, the math wasn't too bad. There were some parts of it. There were some, I think it was like when I got to the tax portions, and I kept making mistakes when it was talking about the taxes being paid in arrears and all of that. And I was just like, okay, so did they pay the taxes already, or do they still got to pay the taxes? And who needs to be, And I was just like, and what was interesting was I was looking at that the night prior to the going to take the test, and I still got it wrong. And I said, well, you know what? I'm just being honest. I could not. It was like it was making sense in my mind, but still, when I was doing the math, it just was not coming together. So I said, you know what? It doesn't even matter. Math was like 5%, I think, of the exam, and I have practiced the mortgaging. I practiced most of the math, and so
Okay.
it was making sense. So I figured, okay, I'm not gonna let that trip me up. I'm just gonna go for it.
You
And
just went for it.
and so that's just me being like completely honest. I did not understand everything,
Yeah, no, that's
but you just gotta just still go for it, and just the studying and the preparation that you do, it'll
mhm.
pay off, because you think you don't understand a lot, but you realize that you understand a lot more than what you're giving yourself credit for.
Right. And the fact is, like you said, if you get most of it right, it doesn't matter if you don't understand every single thing. And, again, I've taken that test. A lot of stuff in reality, you can Google it.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to know that you can comprehend it and that you can do it. But a lot of the stuff, you really can Google it and you have the reference material. So if you have to go back, you can refer to it. So that was the math portion. And then there's also a law portion. Now, the law portion is very precise because it'll talk about the code or it'll talk about the department or, how are you able to like compartmentalize that in your mind? Because that's part of it. Like you passed. How are you able to like that those are all
Um,
foreign concepts. Like, how did you get that into your mind and were able to pass that test?
for that portion, I was focused on what the board does, what the department does, differentiating the roles there. And so the questions that I got, if I can try to remember for that, were, I think, just understanding that aspect of understanding like what the requirements for reinstatement of the licensure. So knowing those basics, um, locking in those parts, then all the rest kind of fell in line when, they asked questions about who's responsible for what, and all that.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's a lot of information. It's a lot of laws. Some of it was, I felt like the questions were just kind of, if you thought about it, um, and remember what you read, like I didn't read verbatim, like all through the whole, you know what I mean? Outside from when we were going through it in the, you drive yourself crazy, right?
Or it puts me to sleep. Like
Yeah,
I was like, you know what? I should never have a problem sleeping ever. Just read this law stuff. Like I will slop.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I say like don't keep reading it over and over and over again, because you'll recall it back in certain, aspects. I guess that's the best way I can put it. I feel like when I was trying to memorize it verbatim, it was confusing and like you said, it was boring.
Yes. Kill me
But if
now.
you're like um pulling out those points, I can only go by the program that I went with, Real Estate One Academy. It was awesome. They really helped to pull out the points, underline this is what you really need to know. So that's
Nice.
really important. The 40-hour class, make
Yes.
sure you choose one that's reputable and that is recommended, highly recommended.
That's really good advice. That is really good advice. So I want to add to that too. So when I took the course and when we took the course, same thing. I honestly I don't think I read through the whole law thing once. Like I would try, like I was trying so hard to read through it and I kept falling asleep. Now I know we did cover it in class, but just practicing reading, I couldn't do it. So what I did was I bought they had an extra thing you could buy, and it was somebody else reading the law.
Mm.
Okay, it was like one of the instructors reading the law. And so I would listen to that over and over again. And even though it was boring, it got into my mind. Like it was in my head. And I could actually answer the questions because it was there. I got the principles, I got the concepts. So like I played it when I was driving. I really one of the big things too, and this was something that helped me, and I want to get your thoughts on it too. I focused, like I blocked out everything else pretty much in my life. Like I didn't block out my family, but even they were just like, hey, they're like, I know that you're studying for this right now. So I really blocked out mental time to just like no TV, no internet, like just, I'm just studying this.
Mm.
So, but as far as the law, exactly, like I would do that while I was doing other things. Like I would listen to it while I'm driving or whatever. I would just I listened to that thing so much, but I really to study, I just had to block everything out. And I think really reviewing, I reviewed a lot. Like you were just saying, like I reviewed before I took the test a lot. And I took practice tests and I was so uh I was kind of disgusted with myself because like I had studied so hard. Like this was the most intense I had studied for anything in like quite some time. And I took the practice test and I failed. I was so I mean, like, I was like, I know this. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't know how I failed it. So I did the review and then I didn't even go home and study. I did the review right then. Like they had a session where you could, do the review and grade, like live. And then after that, I was just like, I came back the next day and took because you have to pass the test for the class before you can take the test with the state. So then I came back the next day and I was able to pass it. So as far as like really getting your mind, did you have to block other things out or were you able, because everybody studies differently. How did you
Mhm.
like what did you do to get through that time period?
So I have a full family. I have two boys. So, and I have a husband. So it's a family.
The full deal.
So my kids are in school. Helping them homeschool, it's a heavy load. So you can't take those things away. But they knew what the deal was. They understood. So having that open communication, like this is important for me when I'm setting aside this time to study. I don't need, like you said, those distractions. You gotta understand, I'm trying to study. And so I feel like I had really good support with my family to be able to do that. As far as the studying part, for me, I'm an incremental studier. So I I would go in and maybe, especially with the question and answer, when I was doing the app, say I would go in and do maybe 10 questions, see which ones I got wrong. Then I would go do another 10, but before I did that, I would re-answer those 10, to see that I, got them, that I know them. And then like after I did that once, I might take a break, play an app on my phone, let it sink in and soak in a little bit.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how, even when I was learning the answering some other worksheet questions that we had in our packet from like class and going reviewing some of that, I would do it for maybe an hour or so, take some notes, but then I would tuck it away.
Okay.
And then
Okay. Like,
and then get back to it. So it wasn't just like 6 hours study time. It
okay.
was, but it was kind of broken up, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
and then what's good about the app is I would have that like even before I went to bed sometimes, instead of like scrolling, some people might watch something on the phone. I would pull up the app and try to answer a few questions on that. So it's good to have. For me, I need like variety when I'm studying too. I need to be able to read it. I need to be able to speak it. I need to be able to write it down. Just a variety of ways in order for it to sink in.
I really want to thank you, first of all, for sharing this, and, sharing this not just with me, but everyone else that's going to benefit from this too. And you knocked it out the park. I mean, this is the beginning of your journey. And with you putting in that much time, just to get the test done, to pass the exam and things like that, like there it is obvious that you're going to have the success that you're looking for. So I really appreciate you sharing that and helping. Thank you
I
again.
hope we can help someone. You're welcome.